Hello and welcome to Intruder Alert, a new podcast from Cybrary. I'm your host, Marcus Hutchins, and thanks for joining us once again. Intruder Alert drops new episodes every 2 weeks. We're on Spotify, Apple, Google, and on YouTube. And if you want to check out cybrary.com or cybrary.it for more free learning resources, then please head on over. The link should be in the description of the podcast. Now, I'm joined today with Caitlin Sauering, also known as Cybersecurity_girl. Caitlin is a renowned cybersecurity influencer, captivating an audience of over 100,000 followers. That's impressive. She specializes in decoding cybersecurity, advertising on digital protection, and mentoring industry professionals through her educational content. So welcome, and just tell me a bit more about yourself, I guess.
Yeah, thanks so much, Marcus. I'm really excited to be here. Never thought I'd go from cybersecurity to doing social media kind of influencer thing, but we are here. I
I feel
started
like that's the pipeline.
yeah, the normal career path when you get into cybersecurity, I guess. But I should have known from day one that my career path was never normal. So I actually did aerospace mechanical engineering in undergrad and grad school. I mean, I had to learn how to code for that, but I never thought I would use it. And honestly, coding was my least favorite class, that and physics. So when I was getting into the industry, I wanted to do tech consulting. And right when I got in, they were like, hey, are you interested in learning cybersecurity? And so that's literally how my journey started, which is why I'm such an advocate for explaining to people that you don't need a cybersecurity degree or career, and you don't need coding experience in order for you to get into the field. There's a lot of people that just think cybersecurity is coding and hacking and all of the data breaches, ransomware, all of that, which we'll discuss pretty soon. But there's so many other aspects of cybersecurity that you can get into, and so I kind of that my cybersecurity career kind of grew from there. I did cybersecurity large scale transformation projects, and I started specializing in data protection and privacy, which has been really crazy, and it allowed me to travel and live in London for a few years. I got to work at a law firm, and then I previously worked at TikTok, helping with their cybersecurity advocacy and culture team, and leading that team. So I've had amazing experiences, and it's only been the last few weeks actually that I decided to really hone in on educating users and helping people understand how to stay safe online and also how to get into cybersecurity. I felt like that was really my calling, and I'm really excited to be here and kind of share with everyone a little bit more about cybersecurity and also how they can learn and grow in this space.
Awesome. You said you were at TikTok. Is that past tense or you're still there?
Yes, it's past tense. I left about 3 weeks ago. So you're the first people really. I haven't even told my followers that I left. So actually, a majority of my followers had no idea I worked there. I've been really good about not having my last name on my profile up until
Yeah.
maybe a month or so ago. And I was really trying to remain anonymous. I mean, unless people knew about the Google reverse image search, they really couldn't find me. So I've been pretty good about keeping my career private because I didn't want that to, I don't know, sway people or get people riled up. But yes, it's
Yeah.
past tense.
So are you going full-time influencer or are you going to another company?
Oh no, I'm gonna bet on myself for the next year, which I've been wanting to do for a really long time. Not necessarily influencer, but we're building a lot of things. So if you do not follow me because there's gonna be a lot of crazy fun things that are gonna be unfolding and unraveling just to help as many people as possible. One thing I started realizing is that right now we live in a day and age where literally like babies get technology in their hands. And similar to taxes, right? You're never actually told how to be secure online. So it's really trying to educate the general population of like simple steps that they can take in order to be safe.
Yeah, and TikTok is a great place to do that. I kind of fell into the social media influencer to infosec to social media influencer pipeline,
Right.
and I recently stumbled onto TikTok. I think it was in 2021, and I was like kind of skeptical. I'm like weird, like uh, there was like a lot of rumors about TikTok. Is it spyware? Is it blah blah blah? And I was like, you know what? I'll try it out. Like, friend kind of forced me to create an account, and I was like, this is like the best platform,
It
especially
really
for
is.
like communicating to like the younger generations who are like just getting into tech.
Yeah. And that's what So I started around the same time. I think it was 2021, 22. It was right when they officially launched the fact that they were working with Oracle and moving everything to the US. Because as
Uh,
a data privacy and data protection expert, I was like, I can't possibly advise my clients on how to protect their data and be on TikTok if it's still located in China. So right when they said, "Oh, we're working with partnering with Oracle and we're moving everything to the US," I was like, "All right, I feel comfortable now." I read their privacy policy, felt really good about it, and then I knew obviously every social media, not just TikTok, every social media, every app is collecting your digital footprint. It doesn't matter where you are. So it's kind of like pick your poison in that sense, and then learn how to just try not to give as much information out. So learn how to like adjust your settings to where they're not getting everything and everything about you basically. And so that's kind of what I started doing. And I only wanted to start my TikTok if it was going to be a force for good. So I came into TikTok knowing that I was only going to be doing educational content around cybersecurity, and then it kind of just blew up. And it's been a blessing because, like you said, that platform is literally one of the best platforms to hit the younger generation, and really like impact the younger generation. So I've loved it.
Yeah, it is like it's phenomenal because it like just the way the algorithm works. It's like you're not kind of boxed into this little like niche. It's like if your
Exactly.
video is popular, it will go to everyone, and
Right.
like that's what you need because like when you're on like say InfoSec Twitter and you have all these InfoSec followers, all of your content just ends up going to other InfoSec people, and it's like
Right.
they don't need to hear this. It's like the general public.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of like a lot of my cybersecurity tips started going viral, and it was great because it was literally going to the general public. And I actually felt like I was making a difference rather than posting on LinkedIn, like you said, where or like Twitter, where or Reddit, where you're really niched down into these communities already. And most of these communities already know what's going to happen. Like I
Yeah.
don't have this like, high level insight of what's happening in the government. I only know when it hits the news, just like everyone else. And so my voice at that point can only go so far to those niche communities. But when I'm able to share it on TikTok or other platforms that are not as niche down, it's pretty amazing that you can impact and influence that many people to kind of protecting themselves online.
Yeah. I hit like a bit of a snag is this was like the early TikTok when they basically hadn't really fleshed out the cybersecurity industry and they were like, this looks like crime. Like it looks like you're doing crime. And I
Yeah,
was kind of doing these educational videos on here is how hackers will go after you. Like here's what you can do to stop them. And the moderators would just go, that's crime, and they would ban my videos.
yeah.
And there's like you're probably familiar with like the strike system. Each time you get a video removed, the ban gets longer and longer. And I think I was at the point where I was getting like 2 week long bans, and I was like,
Oh
I
my gosh.
can't do any more content now, or I'm
Yeah.
getting perm banned.
Yeah, I haven't had like that big of a I don't think I've ever had a ban. The only thing I've had is like a video under review for about an hour or 2 before it gets like released. So I think I haven't had a ban. I think maybe I had one. I don't know. There was a point in time where I thought I was shadow banned, but I feel like that's thrown around a lot. So
Yeah.
maybe I
No.
wasn't. Maybe my videos are just performing really poorly and I was just being like blaming someone else. I don't know.
No, I think it was I was being a little bit like I was trying to make it as interesting as possible. So I would like
Yeah.
demo the attack from the attacker's perspective before I talked about it. And of course
Yeah.
then they saw me like hacking into something and like, oh my god, this is crime.
Yeah, and it's also hard because you wanna show what hackers are doing, but then you
Yeah.
also don't wanna show these people how it's done because then they can do it themselves, and so it's that weird balance of, like, okay, how much can I show to just show you what can be done without,
Yeah.
like, just
When
throwing a wrench in everything.
Yeah, like so I had a really big issue there because like what I was trying to do is like just give like a high level overview. Like I had one video with the Proxmark and it's me like cloning hotel keys,
Right,
and I deliberately didn't delve into the like technical side because it's like it's a command line tool. You've got to go through all of this setup, all of these commands. Whereas I was just
right,
showing me like duplicating the key cards, which made it look like that's all you have to do. You just like wave the magic device and you're in.
right.
And so that actually made it worse because I wasn't showing the complexities, and they were like, "Wow, this is he can't be showing this."
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, if I were, 10 years younger and didn't know anything about cybersecurity yet, I would have been like, "Wow, I need to get me one of those, that'd be awesome." Or I'd try to probably be the opposite because I used to live out of hotels and doing consulting, And so I'd probably try to figure out ways around that. Like, can I not have a key card? Can I put it on my phone? I don't know. But yeah, it's a crazy world we live in, honestly. The power of technology. And I always say, because people are always worried, like, what do I do? And I'm like, honestly, I obviously give tips, but if someone really wants to get in, like, they're gonna get in. They'll figure out a way. But that's why you try to like limit the data that you're given, limit the set, like the settings, preferences, all of that. Be as safe as possible while you're doing whatever you need to do online, and try to like limit everything that you do,
Yeah,
but still have fun.
yeah, it's like raising the bar, right? Like
Right.
if someone's super determined, then yeah, they're gonna get in. But most people aren't. Like most people are just gonna like look at you. They're gonna send some low effort phishing email. They're gonna like try and get your bank details, and then they're gonna move on to the next person.
I mean, they've gotten very like very complicated recently. One of my friends, I was on the phone with her, and I got a Venmo request from her, and it was like, like, I lost my keys. I'm locked out of my house. Can you send me $200 so I can like, I like don't have my wallet. Can you send me $200 so I can get my key cloned or something? And I was like, why did you just send me a Venmo request? And she's like, I did it. And someone like hacked her Venmo and like literally sent requests to every single person. And like $200 is not, it's a lot, but it's not that much at the same time. So if it's like a best friend, and of course you're going to send it without even asking. But again, it's like those little things where it's like, this seems weird. Like just question things
Yeah,
now a little bit more. But yeah, I know we're going
yeah.
off the topic, but
I mean, there isn't really a topic. I think the topic is whatever we want to talk about.
that's true. It is. I mean, cybersecurity is a crazy field, and it's always expanding, always growing. And you can never, I always tell people that are interested in cyber, I'm like, if you're passionate about continuing to learn for the rest of your life, then you'll be very successful in this field because you can't drop the ball, honestly.
I mean, that's what makes it fun. Like, there's never any feeling like where you've mastered the trade. It's always just an endless learning curve.
Right. Yeah. And that's the reason why I've stayed in it for so long. And the reason why I actually got out of engineering was because I did a lot of internships, which were amazing. But I was like, I can't ever imagine being at a company and doing the same thing over and over and over again. Every day I would like see, 6-year-olds doing the same job. I mean, granted, it was like tweaked a little bit, but you're working on the same problem for that long. I was like, I have ADD and I will get bored within like even 6 months. I was getting bored of, not even like 3 months, I was getting bored of those internships. So I was like, let's just find something that's always constantly changing and you're always going to be forced to learn in order to like stay up to date. And that was cyber. So
I think that's what makes the field so attractive to people with ADHD. Like, you can't get bored. There's always something to look at.
yeah, especially like the hyper focused ADHD people. Like, that you're either like very not focused or you're like fully in. It's pretty great when you're fully in.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So I think our first topic is the US cyber attack, which I think is referring to the Move It vulnerability, which led to, I don't think they confirmed what actor it was. There was an actor known as Clop, which is I think, Eastern European ransomware group, and they were hitting a couple of things. Then someone used that vulnerability against US government federal agencies, and it's not
Mhm.
confirmed whether that was Clop. My theory is like whenever a vulnerability like that is discovered and it gets published about, then all of the governments kind of join the train and they start spraying it at like whatever they can find. So it's not really 100% sure like who is attacking the US, but yeah, like a bunch of federal agencies got hit, all with the Move It file transfer vulnerability.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's great that you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up. I feel like a lot of news agencies are already reporting that it is Clop and it's Russian based, and it's like we don't actually know that yet. And like Clop is like a ransom. They're known for their ransomware, and there was no ransom yet. Like no one's given a
Mm.
ransom to get this data back. And I think on top of that, it was Move It, but I think wasn't the Louisiana like drivers also like impacted, and I think BBC was impacted. I don't know. I think there was a lot of other things that happened at the same time, and I think it all involved Move It, which I don't know if like what the audience is of listening to this, but Move It's like a file transfer system. So anytime they wanted to securely transfer a file within the government, they must use a system because it helps encrypt it and keep it safe. Ironically, it clearly didn't keep it safe. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of speculation at this point on what's going on. The issue is a lot of the a lot of the news agencies don't consider this speculation. They've just like jumped to it's, Russian and it's Cloud
Yeah.
ransomware group. And even though we don't really have a lot of evidence, all we know is that they've gotten in. So I'm not like, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the struggle because like the initial reporting was based on a I don't know if it was Klopp specifically or the upstream. Like, I think it was the access broker that sells to Klopp. But basically, it
Mm,
was like, hey, someone has deployed Klopp ransomware using the Move It vulnerability. And then after that post, everyone's like, oh, Move It vulnerability. We can get into things that way. And
right,
from then on, it's like, who actually knows, like, who is the person breaking in? And of course,
right.
like the media see that initial report. So they're like, oh, it must be Klopp.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the fun part about 0-day vulnerabilities too. It's just like it's just straight fun, for everyone involved, honestly.
Unless you're the company.
Yeah, which is or people that are impacted by that too, because like, you don't really know the full impact until the company has figured it out themselves, right? So, it's a difficult web they weave.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested on like the after action reports on who else was using this vulnerability because there's like at this stage, I think there is a patch out so people can like reverse engineer it, figure out the vulnerability. There is no way it's just one threat actor using this by now.
No. Yeah, and then it's like the smaller companies that haven't patched that system yet, that haven't even been made aware. I think that's the other thing that people forget is like, yeah, if this is like used in such large companies and like other companies are using it and they haven't even like deployed a patch yet, uh, mm, you
Yeah,
know,
it's a rough one.
yeah,
That's usually how it goes. It's I'll know there's a 0 day and they're like, okay, phew, it's patched. And it's like, who has installed the patch? Three people.
right. I mean, hopefully it's like the main companies that use it like constantly, which we would hope that they would patch it immediately. But it's like the other companies that are going to be using that same software that probably aren't as privy to what's going on. Um, or don't have the resources, honestly, or understanding and like knowing that they need to do that.
Well, based on the list of companies still reporting breaches, I don't think a lot of people have patched.
Yeah, I know. That's the sad part. I wish if there was a way for Move It to reach out to anyone that's ever like used their software. Obviously, like the sales team should have a contact for every single person that they've sold the software to let them know to like, push out the patch. But I don't know if they are doing that. I can't speak on behalf of what they do, but it would be
I feel
helpful.
like in my experience, it's they'll have like a point of contact at the company, which will be like first name underscore last name at company domain, and then that person will leave,
Yeah.
and then they'll just like bounce all the emails back. Because I've had it where I'm like contacting with someone at a company, and then one day all my emails are just getting dropped, and it's like, oh yeah, they've been fired, and we just like turned off their mailbox, and you're like, oh, that makes great sense, like great idea.
That happens way more than normal, and the sad thing is, like, everyone knows that it's happening, but, like, there's never any, like, remediation plans after that, like, no one because everyone has their own especially in tech, there's so much work that needs to be done that no one has the time to pick up other people's work once they leave or get fired or whatever is happening, but it, like, definitely needs to be fixed because that happens so often, and it, can lead to issues
Yeah,
too.
it's like almost
Anyways,
impossible to get a point of contact at half of these companies.
yeah.
Speaking of,
Yeah, unless you, like, link stalk
yeah,
them.
then it just comes off as creepy.
Yeah,
I
but it could be helpful in the future, I don't
yeah,
know. I've never LinkedIn stalked, I'm actually very proud of that, but it's always in the back of my mind that if I ever need to get in contact with someone from a company to just to go crazy on
I've had a
LinkedIn.
couple where like it's been urgent enough where we actually had to like call someone's like home phone and just be like, you need to go into the office.
Oh my
I never,
gosh.
yeah, I never
Wow.
like
That
having
is
to do
aggressive.
that one. That's always because it's like like it'll be like a nation state actor or like a major ransomware attack is about to take place, and you're like, I can't find anyone. Literally, the only way we can get like them in contact is to like show up at the CISO's house.
Yeah, yeah, that's nuts. Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole nother thing, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's not that much to talk about with this US situation right now because no one knows
Yeah.
anything. And the people that are claiming to know still don't, they're not claiming to know, they're reporting on it, but it's I don't think that information is fully
And everyone's
accurate yet.
focusing on the US government angle because that is the only country that exists, and they're not like it's a global thing. Like it's I think that they, as you said earlier, like BBC was hit, some other countries were hit, but the angle that they seem to be going with right now is making it sound like it's like a specific attack against the US government, which it's like it's very clearly not.
Right. It's just trying to get into places and then potentially holding it for ransom, but again, none of this has been held for ransom, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to understand
Yeah,
who is behind it, why they're behind it, and if it's just fun. A lot of times people just do this for fun.
it is true. Yeah, it also could be.
I would not want to hang out with those
Yeah,
people, but yeah,
no, I'd be
I don't
interested to
know.
see where this one leads because it's an it's an interesting one. It's probably multiple actors. Is my guess would be someone is getting in and exfiltrating data, and everyone's like confused about ransom demands because they're not a ransomware group. So they're thinking it's Klopp, and they're like, well, where's the ransomware demand? Where it's actually like some foreign country.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's a foreign country, they don't need a ransom. They have enough money. They just want the information from the US
And
government.
unless you're a certain country,
Oh,
I'm not going to call out because I don't want to be bullied.
we all know what you're talking about. Um, I don't know what they wanna do with, like, the Louisiana driver's licenses, but, who knows? Maybe there's someone in Louisiana they wanna get in touch with, or they just got an easy backdoor in with that vulnerability.
That would be my guess.
Most likely the second
Yeah.
one.
So I guess our next part is entering the field of cybersecurity and its challenges, which I think you can speak perfectly to.
Yeah, so at first when I started the channel, I was like, "You know what? All I have to explain to people is, like, understand, like, figure out what area of cybersecurity you want to get into, take the necessary certifications, take the trainings. Cybrary is a great place to take training. Honestly, Cybrary was one of the, I don't know about you, but it was like the first cybersecurity kind of training platform. I remember when I got in like 10 years ago, people were like, try Cybrary. And there was for like the
Mm,
CISSP. But yeah, I would say like figure out what area you want to get into, take the necessary training. Security Plus is a great certification when you're first getting started. And then honestly, network. I think that's one thing people don't realize. So there's two issues, right? One is people are just like taking the certifications and like studying, and then they don't know what, and they're applying like resume dropping to a bajillion different jobs, and they're not catering their resume, and they're not networking, and they're not meeting the people that are at those companies. I don't think people realize how important it is to network with people on LinkedIn, with people in real life, like go to like join organizations and go to like meetups in your local community. Once you start understanding who's there, like it's the same thing. Like when you want to work with a friend or like someone that you actually enjoy working with over someone random that just resume dropped. So I think a lot of people are having issues with getting jobs. One is because they're just resume dropping, and two, which is a whole other side of the coin, which I'm trying to figure out, and maybe we can talk about that. Is a lot of companies are saying that jobs are entry level. I don't know what's going on in the tech field right now with the job openings, but they're saying that they're entry level jobs. Yet you need like a bajillion years of experience and to give your mom's like right arm in order to get the job. And so I don't know what to do about that in terms of like companies, because if you think about it, wouldn't you rather have someone that's like young and hungry at an actual entry level job than someone that's been in the field for 5 years and kind of, not that everyone's jaded, but like 5 years and like going into an entry level job when they shouldn't be? Like it's, I'm trying to understand, and I just don't, and I don't know if you understand, like why companies are right now, I think in the last year specifically, the entry level jobs that are getting posted are not entry level, and it just like mind blowing to me, and I don't
so there
understand.
you've heard it, join Cybrary. But on a more serious note, yeah, I think it's a salary thing because like they want to pay entry level salary. Like they know the positions aren't entry level, but they're trying to like essentially there isn't a big market in cybersecurity for entry level because it's a pretty deep skill curve, right? Usually you're learning skills on top of skills just to be at the most basic level in cybersecurity. So there never really was such thing as entry level. And they're just kind of
Right.
using the opportunity to be like, yeah, we'll pay you like minimum wage. Just give us like 55 years experience in Swift.
I actually heard this, like all of the large companies were doing this to redo the salary bands for tech jobs. Like if everyone's out of a job, then there's no way you can negotiate
Mm,
up, right? So everyone's still desperate and will take a lower salary and will take the lower like entry level because I guess the salary band. This is total conspiracy theory, and maybe I should be saying this on the podcast, but I was like, intriguing. Like maybe that's what they're trying to do. Because there is literally no other reason besides like again just wanting to pay a lot less for entry level, and I just yeah, it's a weird time, but I would say the best way to get in to me is networking because I still think there's a lot of the weird thing is there's still a lot of jobs posted, like a ton of jobs posted. But it's like, okay, well, who's getting hired for that? There's obviously people that are getting hired, and it's going to be the people that are like internal referrals, which means like, for example, like when I still worked at TikTok and I knew someone that was going to be good at a job and there was a job opening, I was able to internally refer them, and it went through a different route. And so, if you're networking with people, obviously people love internal referrals. When you do internal referrals, um, like the person is able to get usually paid a little bit too for
yeah.
referring that employee, and then that employee also gets a job. So it's the best of both worlds, and it's like it's networking. That's honestly the best to me personally. Is it's what you should spend. Honestly, I think you should spend more time networking than you should do taking a security like a full 6 month boot camp or something, because if you're able to get a certification and you're able to network, why do you need to spend 6 months at a boot camp?
Mm,
In my personal
yeah.
opinion.
The internal referral is very underrated. Like my first two job offers were internal referrals, and the first one, the posting was something like, I want to say like 5 to 8 years experience. I had none. Um, uh, a degree or PhD in cybersecurity or computer science, I had none. And the person just went, yeah, just ignore everything in the job posting, and we'll just send you straight to the, like, it went like straight past HR. So there was no like interview, no nothing. It was like, we're just going to send you straight to the team who you'll be working with. And like, that is the best way to get into a company, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think we got a question saying that there's a lot of remote nowadays. So any tips for networking remotely? Which I think is a great question, but again, like so there's two things. One is I'd force yourself to go to in
Mhm.
person, even if the work is remote, people still like in person interactions, right? Like in real life. The second thing is do something on LinkedIn where you're starting to like post about who you are as an individual and get people to like relate to you and get people to understand who you are. Because if you're just like literally behind your computer, not necessarily like trolling, just sitting there like messaging, like frantically trying to get jobs, like they're not seeing who you are as a person. So, what I would do is I would probably like add it like certain people that are in the area that you want to get into as a friend on LinkedIn. And I would post like once or twice a week at least on like things that you're doing, like, if you're on Try Hack Me, any awards that you got on Try Hack Me, or like, a little bit about your life. And like, so people can start relating to who you are and actually responding. And then once they start like if they like your post, you can use that as an excuse to message them and be like, hey, thanks so much for liking my post. And like starting a conversation from that remote perspective, because you really want people to understand who you are as a person and like relate to you. Because they ultimately you want them to help you get a job, right? I mean, that's my personal opinion. I think in real life is the best, but if you're trying to do it remote, I think there's a lot of like kind of online presence that you need in order to elicit like networking
Yeah,
remotely.
like you got to give them a reason to like want to talk to you. Like, why do I want to hire this
Right.
person? And for that, like, YouTube is great, TikTok is great. Okay, TikTok is less great if you're looking for to find like management level positions, people.
Yeah, there's not a lot of security
Yeah,
professionals on
like it's.
TikTok. I get a lot of slack for it, to be honest, but it's the best
I
way,
mean,
honestly.
it
You'd be surprised
You'd
though.
be surprised though, because like, yes, it's like genuinely a younger generation, like it's mostly Gen Z and millennials. But I ran into a CISO and
Right,
he's like, I saw your TikToks, and I was like, what? But like yeah, like a blog post, YouTube videos, any kind of content that just points to something like, look, this is what I can do. And then it makes it very easy to network on social media because you can like share your content. People are going to reply and ask questions. And you can just like build up a relationship that way. And then I think the other thing is DEF CON groups. Like there's a lot of local hacker meetups, and you can go there, you can
right.
meet like a bunch of cool people. They'll all be working at like different tech companies or cybersecurity companies, and it's like a really good way to get your foot in the door.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think those groups are the best ways to do it. And again, those groups, when people are in those groups, they all want the same thing, right? They want a community, they want to support people, they want to learn. And so if you're in that, they want to help you. Like it's not just like people meeting up and then nothing happens, right? Like you're trying to build your own community, and when you build your community, you want everyone to succeed. So I think those groups are the best, but it's all about if you really don't want to interact, you're gonna have to somewhat interact with certain places like LinkedIn and I mean TikTok. You'd be surprised. There's a decent amount of people that are on it. Honestly, a lot of execs are on it just because their kids are on
Yeah.
it and their kids send them videos, and so they want. So somehow it starts trickling in. To be honest, but yeah, I would start making yourself known
Yeah,
online if you don't want to go out in
it's
public.
definitely getting bigger as well. Like I've noticed more and more cybersecurity people are starting to become comfortable with it.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other like job suggestions to like get their foot in the door? I don't know if it's get their foot in the door, understand how to get in, or but for me, it's like you need to understand what area you're getting into
Yeah,
first,
like that's the
which no one
yeah,
realizes.
that's the big thing is every single time it's how do I get into cybersecurity? And it's like you don't get into cybersecurity, you get into a specific field of cybersecurity. It's like kind of saying, I want a
Mhm.
job in math or I want a job in science. It's like once you know
Yeah,
specifically what part of the industry you want to be in, it's very, very easy. But when you're kind of just feeling like, oh, I want to do something cybersecurity related, but I'm not sure what, that like really, really slows you down.
right. I mean, there are like cybersecurity analyst roles, but to be completely honest, most of those roles go to people that are actually majoring in cybersecurity, like in school, which that wasn't a thing when I went to
Same,
school,
yeah.
but apparently that's a thing now. I honestly am intrigued to know what they learn, uh, like what their classes contain. But anyways, yeah, I think a majority of it, if you're getting in and you don't have a degree and you're just trying to like start from ground zero, you really need to start picking like a specialty and going from there.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, and then the degree thing, yeah, that's true. I think even most countries outside, maybe like the UK, US, Australia, and Canada, don't have cybersecurity degrees yet. So like that's always like a path I don't really super recommend going down because like even if you're in the
Right,
US, it's not that matured. It's like all of these degrees were invented like 2020 onwards. It's not going to be super up to date. They're still going to be like fleshing out what the degree is actually supposed to be. So I always recommend going
right.
like firstly the networking route, as you already said, and secondly the kind of learning how to self-learn, maybe find some certifications, find some online courses, Cybrary, and just go from there.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it. What we used to do when we recruited from college campuses is we'd look at like computer science classes. We'd pick the schools that we'd want to hire from. Usually that it was based on like the distance they were from our main offices. We'd go to those specific professors and say, "Hey, this is what we are working on in the field. So this is what we need them to learn." And then the professors would actually cater their curriculum for to like their students to get a job at our company. So we were like one of the biggest feeder schools for one of our like for USC, which was the university I went to. But like that was what it used like what used to happen is like we used to tell them like this is what we're doing in the field. This is what we need their skills to be. like start working on this. And the professors, like, 'cause there was no way to drive. I mean, again, cybersecurity is such a massive field. And at the end of the day, professors, I think their main goal is one, for you to learn, and two, for you to get a job after school. And so if the professors know that they can teach you something that'll help you get a job, like why wouldn't they teach you that specific thing? So it was kind of like a cool way about doing it. I have no idea what the cybersecurity degrees entail now, but
Yeah, that's definitely like, I don't know if it's all universities, but I've seen like a couple. They're like, there's a couple of companies they work with, so they're actually training you up, as you said, to like join the company. I think that's cool, but
right,
I think it's very hard to find. Like you can't just go to like
right,
a random university and expect they'll be doing that. I assume it's the top
right.
universities, right? That you did it with.
Yeah, we only did it with USC. Was like when I worked at EY, and this was again 10, 9, 8 to 10 years ago. Um, USC was like, I think, the number one school that we recruited from at EY. And it's a top university, especially for the engineering. I think it's a top 3 engineering school in the world. So we would work with a computer science engineering um, professors, and we'd like specifically go to their classes, talk to their classes about what cybersecurity is, what cybersecurity consulting is. So the students would get really excited about it, and we would recruit specifically from those classes, and then we talk to the professors about what we needed from them to
That's
teach.
really cool. Like I didn't know about that. That's awesome. I don't really know what.
Yeah, I don't know if they still do that
Yeah,
anymore,
I'm
but
sure.
I loved
If
it.
you're not, someone else is. I'm sure, especially at like a high end university. Like,
Yeah. And that's what I'm always weary about when people go to a university just to say they're going to a university for like a degree. I'm like,
don't do it.
I mean, I think universities are great for like to a certain extent, but also like if you're able to learn by yourself and this university isn't really helping you place in jobs, like I honestly would ask like the university for statistics on like how many people get jobs after they graduate, and like, is that because of them, or is it because they like went off on their own and tried to get their own job and were like hustling for a job?
Yeah,
I
the
don't know.
advice I always give is, even when a job requires a degree, then there isn't like a specific degree in whatever you want to do. They're just like, we don't really know what the requirements are supposed to be, so we're going to say like, you have a computer science degree. But most of the time,
Right.
they're going to look at your skills, like what you specifically can do, rather than what degree you have. And if you have the degree but not the skills, you're done. Whereas you have the skills but not the degree, they're highly likely to waive that requirement.
Well, and the thing that you just brought up is like the skills, right? Like, how are you showing that you actually know those skills? Like, how are you putting them into play? Is a big thing. Like, it's showing that you know them, not that you're just like book smart and you did it in a class. So I always like encourage people. I'm like, cybersecurity is a big thing. Like, I did data protection and privacy. I'm like, there's a bajillion privacy laws that are coming out. The Texas privacy law just got signed, I think, last a few days ago. Like, there are going to be a lot of small businesses or like businesses that are going to need to comply with these things. You can volunteer your time and put that on your resume. Like, people, they're like, oh, I don't have skill. I'm like, there is a plethora of companies that you can go and say, hey, I am a cybersecurity major. Like, can I code whatever, or can I build your website, or can I help you, stay up to date with privacy laws, make sure you're compliant? How can I audit whatever it is? Like, it's actually putting the skills that you learn in place. And I think that that's like another way of showing that you are, valued in the field, and actually help you get a job without having like, you know, big four experience. You can still have experience without needing to be paid. Like, there's so many like scrappy ways of going about getting a job at this point, that you just have to be clever about it and like show that you know your skills basically.
Yeah, and open source like contributions, white papers, blog posts are some of the best ways to show your skills, because like not only are they
Mhm.
publicly available, but people can actually dig into them. Like if you have, say, if you
Right.
put, say, job experience, they might be able to call the company and confirm whether you worked there, maybe confirm whether you're a good employee or not. But when you have something like a Git project, a blog, you do videos, they can go and watch all of your stuff. They can see, oh yeah, this person knows this, and this. And I think those routes are highly underrated.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can't mess up on this podcast if people dig in. I'm kidding.
So we got another question here that what are some good browser extensions to help us stay safe online?
Oh, okay. So I can start with this. I mean, if why don't you just use a good web browser, not an extension? No? Should we start with that?
Yeah, I
Like,
guess.
let's try to use like Tor or or Brave. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, yeah, we can go through browser extensions.
Yeah, so I don't really know much. I'm not super like big into the whole privacy thing. I've got to the point where I'm like I'm on every social media platform that there is. Like my privacy died a long time ago. Like it probably died when I was born,
Yeah,
right? So I'm not like big into like the Brave browser and Tor and that kind of stuff. I definitely think Brave is fairly useful. I'd say extension wise, the only thing I can think of off the top of my head, a good password manager and an ad blocker because
a
the
VPN.
ads love to spread malware.
Yeah. I mean, I would say the same thing and like a good VPN too. Like a virtual private network is essential if you work from cafe. Even like I use it working on maybe that's why this kind of bugged out when
That
I
would that
a
would
couple
make
like 20
sense.
minutes ago. Sometimes it ruins things, but ultimately I'm safe. Yeah, I would use like a good virtual private network or VPN. I would use a good password manager and please do your research or follow me. I go through like the best password managers, best like email, um, you know, companies because I mean Gmail is not the safest. There's so many ways to be safe online. And there's a lot of great extensions. Yeah, to your point, Marcus, it's also like pop-up blockers, stuff like that. It's just hopefully if you use the appropriate browser, you probably don't need a bunch of browser
Yeah,
extensions. Is what
I
I
have.
would like
I
to
think I have two. It's
say.
password manager, ad blocker, and that's it. And then I just use standard Chrome. Please don't hack me.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, Chrome probably not the best thing, but it's okay as long as you clean it up a little bit every couple months. I think that could be helpful too. A lot of people don't realize because your Chrome has like you. A lot of people use Chrome as like a way to log in too, similar to Facebook, right? So understanding the apps that have access to your Chrome and then like the data that you allowed access to is super important. And then same with Facebook, right? Like I don't use Facebook. I rarely use it. I love my mother. She's probably not going to watch this, but like it's her and her generation on Facebook at
Yeah,
this point, and I only go on just to see some fun things from her. But Facebook is used sometimes to log into certain things, and so I try to monitor what apps are connected to all of that because it's really easy to be like, yeah, log in from like Google, log in from
don't do
Facebook, log in from
it.
Apple, and then you just have so many things connected to one thing. So if one thing gets hacked, you're kind of done. The other thing is Gmail or like emailing is a big thing. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of multi-factor authentication, you use your email, right? So when hackers are trying to get into anything and they get into your email, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty much game over. I don't know if you saw, I think it's called like BitBoy Crypto or I don't know. There's a big cryptocurrency guy that had his Gmail hacked, and he basically was like, good thing is that I didn't turn on. He had a bunch of things hacked, and he was like, I didn't realize how much I get through email. Like you get every single, password reset, every notification, anything. And so I would also focus on not just browser extensions, but like maybe gearing more towards like a good email provider. Proton Mail, great.
I think though it's
That's
less
like
of the email provider because like I've had very few cases of like sure little email providers, but like major email providers being hacked. I feel like it's usually user error, like they get phished, something that password stuffing attack, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely user error, but like the amount of people that have user error is, I mean, here's the thing people reuse their passwords constantly. And what they don't realize is that when they reuse their password and their password was already breached from another company and is put on their dark web, it's not that hard to get and try if they're trying to get in for you specifically. I don't know. I guess I'm just like paranoid, very
For me,
paranoid.
it's like
I've just seen it happen to a lot of
Yeah,
people.
for me it's like it's whatever provider has like the best security, right? Um
Right.
I like you said you're not interested particularly in Gmail, which I find interesting because like I thought that was one of the more secure ones because they have like what's it like some kind of key authentication. It's like a physical
Yeah.
hardware thing. But I'd be interested to hear your take
Right.
on like Proton versus Gmail.
I just think Proton's a lot better. I still use Gmail. Like, don't get me wrong, I use Gmail for a lot of things, but I actually would have to like Google. I did a bunch of research on it about a couple years ago, and I felt a lot more safe with Proton Mail. Um, just because it came after the whole Edward Snowden thing, it's like encrypted end to end, and there's no way of like knowing who sent what, and I don't know. I just like on the back end, I think Proton Mail is better. I don't know necessarily from like a security perspective on the front end for the users if it makes that much of a difference, but I think the back end of Proton Mail might be a little bit safer.
Okay, so like more of like a privacy perspective.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, I'm a big Gmail fanboy. I'm not super concerned about the NSA reading my emails. I think they would get bored, but who knows? Um,
yeah. There's nothing that they're gonna see on
yeah,
mine either. I just, yeah.
but
I mean, again, like I said, I use Gmail a lot, so it's not like I'm hating on Gmail, but from a privacy perspective, I actually think Proton Mail is probably. There's a lot of other ones too, like Neo, and actually just did a video on this last night. I'm totally blanking, but I try to do videos on like different things too because uh, there's just a million ways that you can be safe online. So again, it's like pick your poison. Everything's bad, but you can try to make everything a little
yeah,
bit better. Just
I I
doing
like that quote.
doing the right due
Everything is
diligence.
bad because it is. It's like there is no perfect solution. It's like what is the least bad?
Yeah. Again, it's literally pick your poison. And what's the least bad for you, which could be different for
Yeah,
everyone.
that's. I think that's a big
You said
thing.
Gmail is fine for you.
Is like figuring out what your specific priorities are because everyone is like you've always got like these people who are like they're super concerned about privacy, some are super concerned about security, and it kind of gets very mixed up. And I feel like a lot of the advice I see online is often tailored towards like privacy at the expense of security. They're like, oh yeah, don't use
Right.
2FA because like sim swapping, and it's just like no.
Yeah, the SIM swapping thing, that's how that crypto guy also got like it was a whole thing. And I mean, like at that point, like what can
Yeah.
you do? Like, I don't
Like
know.
I always
I don't know what
remember,
you can
I
do.
always recommend using the authenticator kind of apps, like anything app based rather than SMS if you can. But if you
Right.
can't, SMS is
Right.
better than nothing because they still have the SIM swap you. It doesn't reduce like it doesn't reduce your security. It adds an extra step which might not be as secure, but it's still an extra step in my opinion.
Or this is the other option, which is what I do. There's a few apps that you can generate phone numbers that get forwarded to your phone, not necessarily SMS forwarded, but it's through an app like Google Voice.
Oh
So if you're a big
no,
Google fan, you can use Google Voice.
it's
Or
I
or Cloaked, which is a brand new. It's in beta, so a lot of people can't get it yet. But I was able to get Cloaked, and it like can generate a bajillion different um, different phone numbers, and I use that honestly sometimes
so I
because then you can't SIM swap me. You're not going to have it's not my real number that they're
yeah,
texting.
though I'd caveat that, and that is be careful if you're like a beginner because it's very easy to lose a
Right,
Google Voice number. Not to hackers, to like, oh, it's been reassigned. Now I can't log into any of my stuff.
right,
I've had it even happen to me. So that's the one thing I will warn there is like, yes, like those I don't know what they're called, but like online phone services. At least the high end ones like Google Voice are good for having like a separate phone number. But I believe
right.
if you don't send out a message, not just receive a message, if you don't send out a message for I think it's something maybe 30, maybe 90 days, they actually reassign the number. So that's something to like be
What? I had
it's a
no
new
idea.
policy actually, I think, because they've started running out of numbers. So that's the one thing I would caution is be very careful of having your number reassigned if you do that.
I give my Google Voice number or like other numbers to people that I'm like going on dates with because I don't want them to have my real number.
Which is a great segue to our next question, which I don't know who put that in here, but it's What's the best way to learn how to hack into my ex's phone?
Oh my God. I get this constantly. It's not even like hacking into ex. It's like, I think my ex is cheating.
Yeah.
How can I tell? And I'm like, well, that seems like a you problem. Like, I don't know. I First of all, hacking into anyone's stuff is
Hmm.
illegal. So let's just throw it out there. That's not I'm not going to do that for you. Um, I don't know. There should be some writing on the wall somewhere. I feel like it should be pretty obvious. I'm being kind of insensitive about it. I should not do that. But I I don't know. What's your thoughts? Because I get this all the time, and I honestly just don't respond. I'm like, I can't help you.
So my advice is if you're trying to hack your ex's phone, therapy. If you're trying to hack your current partner's phone because you think they're cheating, break up with them because either they
I was gonna say, or therapy.
break up with them and go to therapy because like either one of two
Yeah,
things is happening. The first is that they are cheating and they're probably going to admit it when you break up with them. The second is that they're not cheating and you just have like some kind of insecurity about being cheated on, which is very harmful to a relationship. Like the foundation of a relationship is trust. So if you don't trust your
right.
partner, then what is there? So that's not you're not breaking up with them because they're the problem. You're breaking up with them because you're the problem, and then go to therapy. Like both
Yeah.
solutions is just therapy, in my opinion.
Yeah, literally. And then do you know what's funny is that the amount of times I've like met people, like I've met up with someone after like talking to them a while on Instagram, not like dates, just like people in general, and they're like, "How much research did you do on me?" I'm like, I don't do that like to people. I didn't this That's not my job. Like I want to meet you
Mm,
normally, organically. I don't hack into people's phones. No one should be doing that. I mean, there are ways to check photos, which I've had done. Like there's a way to like reverse Google image search, reverse search a photo, and it will bring up a bunch of whoever that person is, it'll bring up a bunch of profiles. So I've made videos. I haven't specifically told people this, but I've like made videos about it to say like, hey, if you ever want to like find someone, you can like use this website and like put a photo in, and you know, it will come up with, if it has anything, it will come up with like places that this person, like websites that has referenced this person, and that's all legal. It's all public knowledge. It's using public photos, and I've had people find that like they were dating a guy that was married and like found that person's real name on Facebook or something. But I don't ever like hack into anyone's phone. I don't even, to be honest, I don't know how to do that. So that's not my area of expertise in cybersecurity. Not everyone is a hacker. But yeah, like if you're having issues with this, you should definitely go to therapy because that'll play out in your life
yes.
for the rest of your life. And I think just trust them. And if you don't trust them, then yeah, break up with them. It's probably the best way.
Yeah. And the other thing I think with the reverse image search is there's a lot of scammers who will just take photos of like random models off of the internet and pretend to be them. And it's quite a good way to tell if you're talking to like a real person or some scammer who is
Hmm.
just gonna, I don't know what they do, run off with your money. I have no idea what those scams are for, but yeah.
There are so many. And surprisingly to like a lot of like the older
Mm,
generation that I've heard, that like asks to send money. It's yeah, it's a whole
I get
thing.
them on LinkedIn of
I
all
would
places. It'll be
what?
like a very obvious like that's not you kind of photo, like just like the most attractive supermodel ever, and it'll be like I can't remember what their bio will be, but it will be like something similar to my career. But then the second you add them, they'll be like they'll just go into your DMs and start flirting, and I'm like, this is a bot. But like LinkedIn, really? Like of all of the platforms, you're gonna try and like catfish people? It's gonna be LinkedIn.
I do remember back in like my kind of social engineering days. I think this was like a year or two into my cybersecurity career. We were trying to get information on this company. I mean, we were paid for this, by the way. Let me just blanket statement say like we were paid to try to get into the company. And my friend, who is beautiful, is also in cybersecurity, and she had her resume up on LinkedIn, but anytime you clicked it, it like went to something else, and it actually ended up grabbing a bunch of people's information. And uh, so she was like adding a bunch of executives from this company to her LinkedIn and messaging them and be like, "Hey, please like reference my resume. I'd love a job." I don't think you can do this anymore, by the way. And she was getting all their information from them clicking on her
Oh, is
mainly.
that the PDF, like the tracking token where whenever they open the PDF, it connects to a website? That's a
Yeah.
fun one. I don't know if I feel bad for them or not. It's like I think that's just a funny. That's just funny.
It was funny. I was like, "Wow, this is so fun. It's so cool." I love doing, like, the social experiments and, like, trying to get into someone's, like, office and see what I can find, because everyone lets you in. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, anyways, this is a whole separate topic, but, the moral of the story is go to therapy. Everyone should be in therapy.
100%.
Even if you
Yes,
don't need therapy.
it is. That's just the best general life advice. Is even if you don't think there's anything wrong with you, go to therapy.
Yeah.
Right. So
It's like cybersecurity. There's always everything's always wrong, so
yes.
just you gotta accept what you can.
All right, so that's all for our podcast today. Thanks so much for joining me, Caitlin. And we're gonna be, as usual, every 2 weeks, new episode. And if you are interested in honing your cybersecurity skills or you're trying to get into cybersecurity, then head on over to Cybrary. I think the referral link should be in the podcast description. And we hope to see you there.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Marcus, for having me.